Deep in the heart of the county, nestled between rolling hills and sprawling farmlands, lay the Whispering Woods. Locals whispered tales of its shadowed depths, claiming it was haunted by lost souls and strange creatures. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, leaving the forest floor perpetually dim and cloaked in an eerie silence. Children were warned to stay away, their parents painting vivid pictures of gnarled trees that snatched wanderers and mischievous sprites that led them astray. Even seasoned hunters avoided its borders, preferring the open fields and familiar trails. The Whispering Woods was a place of mystery and fear, a place where the unknown reigned supreme. Legends told of a heartbroken woman who wandered into the woods never to return, her mournful cries still echoing on windy nights. Some claimed to see flickering lights deep within, the campfires of long-lost travelers, or perhaps something far more sinister. The truth, however, was far simpler, yet equally heartbreaking. The woods were not haunted by ghosts or monsters, but by the silent suffering of two small, forgotten souls. Little did the locals know, this forest, feared and avoided, was about to become the stage for a story of resilience, kindness, and the enduring power of hope. The story of two sisters, left to fend for themselves in the face of unimaginable hardship, and the kindest rancher who would forever change their fate. At the edge of the Whispering Woods, where the last rays of sunlight dared to touch the ground, sat two small figures. Lily, the younger of the two, was only 6 years old. Her bright, curious eyes, usually full of laughter, were now wide with fear. She clutched a worn teddy bear, its fur matted and missing an eye, for comfort. Beside her sat Rose, her 8-year-old sister. Though young, Rose possessed a strength and determination that belied her age. She wrapped a protective arm around Lily, her gaze darting nervously between the darkening trees and the empty road behind them. They had been left there, abandoned like unwanted toys, with nothing but the clothes on their backs and the threadbare teddy bear. "Are they coming back, Rose?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Rose squeezed her sister tighter. "Of course, they are, Lily Bug," she lied, her voice barely above a breath. She didn't believe it herself, but she couldn't let Lily see her own fear. They had been waiting for hours, the sun slowly sinking below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple that did little to ease their anxiety. The woods seemed to watch them, the shadows lengthening and twisting into monstrous shapes. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent shivers down their spines. They were alone, utterly and completely alone, in a place that everyone warned them to avoid. Their fate, for now, was intertwined with the secrets and dangers of the Whispering Woods. The first night was the worst. Every shadow seemed to hold a monster, every rustle a predator. Rose, fueled by adrenaline and a fierce love for her sister, managed to drag them deeper into the woods, away from the road and any lingering hope of rescue. They huddled beneath the thick branches of a towering oak, the rough bark scraping against their skin. Survival became their only focus. Rose, remembering stories her grandmother used to tell, taught Lily how to identify edible berries and plants. They learned to listen for the telltale signs of danger, the snap of a twig, the hoot of an owl, the distant howl of a coyote. Their makeshift shelter was a lean-to of branches and leaves, offering little protection from the elements but providing a semblance of safety. Hunger gnawed at their bellies. They foraged for berries, often bitter and unsatisfying, and learned to catch small insects for extra protein. Thirst was a constant companion. Rose led them to a small stream, teaching Lily how to cup her hands and drink carefully. One evening, a fox, its eyes gleaming in the twilight, approached their camp. Lily, terrified, clung to Rose. But the fox, instead of attacking, simply watched them with curious eyes before disappearing into the undergrowth. It was a small reminder that not everything in the woods was a threat. Despite the fear and hardship, a sliver of hope remained, flickering like a tiny flame in the darkness. They were forgotten, but not yet broken. Just beyond the edge of the Whispering Woods, nestled in a valley bathed in sunlight, was a sprawling ranch. It was home to Mr. Johnson, a man as warm and gentle as the golden fields surrounding his property. Mr. Johnson was a rancher through and through. His weathered hands, calloused from years of hard work, were surprisingly gentle when he tended to his animals. He had a kind face, etched with wrinkles that spoke of a life lived outdoors, and eyes that twinkled with genuine warmth. He was known throughout the county for his generosity and his unwavering belief in the goodness of others. Animals seemed drawn to him. Stray dogs and injured birds often found refuge on his ranch, and he always welcomed them with open arms. Mr. Johnson lived a simple life, finding joy in the rhythm of the seasons and the company of his animals. He spent his days tending to his cattle, mending fences, and cultivating his vegetable garden. He was a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. He always had a helping hand for those in need and a kind word for everyone he met. He was, in every sense of the word, a good man. Little did he know, his peaceful life was about to be disrupted by the cries of two lost children echoing from the depths of the whispering woods. The wind carried strange tales through the county. It whispered through the tall grass of Mr. Johnson's ranch and rustled the leaves of the whispering woods. For days, Mr. Johnson had heard snippets of conversations in town, hushed voices talking about children lost in the woods. He dismissed them at first, attributing them to the usual tall tales surrounding the forest. But then, Mrs. Gable, the baker, stopped by his ranch to buy some eggs. She was usually a cheerful woman, but today her face was etched with worry. "Mr. Johnson," she said, her voice low, "they say there are two little girls, abandoned near the woods. Everyone is afraid to go looking, because of the stories." Mr. Johnson frowned. The thought of children alone and scared in the woods tugged at his heart. He knew the stories, of course. Everyone did. But he also knew that fear could be a powerful thing, blinding people to what was right. That evening, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across his ranch, Mr. Johnson made a decision. He couldn't ignore the possibility that children were in danger. He knew the woods better than most, having wandered its edges countless times in search of stray cattle. He would investigate, despite the superstitions and the warnings. He saddled his old horse, Buck, and prepared to venture into the whispering woods, hoping to find two lost souls and bring them back to safety. He felt a responsibility to do something. The whispering woods lived up to its name as Mr. Johnson and Buck ventured deeper. The trees seemed to lean in, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out. The air grew cooler, and the sounds of the ranch faded behind them, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl. Mr. Johnson kept a steady hand on Buck's reins, his eyes scanning the undergrowth. He called out, his voice calm and reassuring, "Hello. Is anyone there? I'm here to help." Only the echo of his own voice answered him. He continued his search, following a barely discernible trail, his heart heavy with each passing moment. Finally, as dusk began to deepen, he heard it, a faint whimper, carried on the breeze. He urged Buck forward, his senses on high alert. He dismounted near a thicket of bushes, tying Buck securely to a tree. He pushed aside the branches and there, huddled beneath a towering oak, were two small figures. Lily and Rose. They were dirty and thin, their eyes wide with fear. Rose, ever protective, stood in front of Lily, her small body trembling. "Don't come any closer," she cried, her voice hoarse. Mr. Johnson raised his hands slowly, showing that he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said gently. "My name is Mr. Johnson. I'm a rancher. I just want to help." He took a step back, giving them space. "Are you two lost?" he asked. The sisters just stared at him, their eyes filled with suspicion. It would take time, he knew, to earn their trust. Mr. Johnson understood that fear spoke louder than words. He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out two apples, red and shiny. He held them out, keeping his distance. "I brought you these," he said softly. "They're from my orchard. Fresh and sweet." Rose eyed the apples with suspicion, but Lily's stomach rumbled loudly. Rose glanced at her sister, then back at Mr. Johnson. Slowly, cautiously, she reached out and took one of the apples. She examined it carefully before taking a small bite. Her eyes widened. It was the sweetest thing she had ever tasted. She offered the other apple to Lily, who devoured it in seconds. "Thank you," Rose mumbled, her voice still guarded. "You're welcome," Mr. Johnson replied. He sat down on a fallen log, maintaining a respectful distance. He didn't press them with questions. He simply talked about his ranch, his animals, and the simple joys of farm life. He spoke in a calm, soothing voice, his words weaving a tapestry of safety and kindness. As the sky darkened, and the stars began to twinkle, the sisters began to relax. The fear in their eyes lessened, replaced by a flicker of curiosity. Mr. Johnson offered them a blanket from his saddlebag, and they huddled together, sharing its warmth. He knew he couldn't leave them in the woods overnight. He had gained a sliver of their trust, enough to suggest bringing them back to his ranch. "It's getting late," he said gently. "It's safer at my place. I have warm beds and plenty of food. Would you like to come?" This time, Rose didn't hesitate. She nodded, her grip on Lily's hand tightening. They were ready to leave the whispering woods behind. The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Mr. Johnson led Buck slowly, allowing the sisters to keep pace. The stars seemed to guide them, twinkling like beacons of hope in the dark sky. When they arrived at the ranch, the warmth and light spilling from the windows felt like a dream. Mr. Johnson's housekeeper, Mrs. Peterson, a plump, kindly woman with a warm smile, greeted them at the door. She gasped softly when she saw the sisters, but quickly recovered, ushering them inside with gentle words. "Come in, dearies, you must be freezing." The first thing Mr. Johnson did was draw warm baths for Lily and Rose. They hesitated at first, unused to such luxury, but soon succumbed to the soothing water. Mrs. Peterson helped them wash away the dirt and grime of the forest, their skin slowly regaining its natural color. She then dressed them in soft, clean nightgowns that belonged to her granddaughters, who occasionally visited. After their baths, Mr. Johnson led them to the kitchen, where Mrs. Peterson had prepared a simple but nourishing meal of warm milk and oatmeal. They ate slowly at first, savoring each bite. It had been so long since they had had a proper meal. As they ate, Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Peterson exchanged glances, their hearts aching for the two little girls who had endured so much. That night, Lily and Rose slept in soft, comfortable beds, tucked in with warm blankets. It was the first time in weeks that they had felt safe and secure. The whispering woods, and the fear it held, seemed a million miles away. They were finally home. The first few days at the ranch were filled with quiet observation. Lily and Rose stayed close to each other, their eyes following Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Peterson wherever they went. They helped with small chores, feeding the chickens and collecting eggs, their movements tentative and unsure. One afternoon, as Mr. Johnson was mending a fence, Rose approached him hesitantly. "Mr. Johnson?" she asked, her voice barely audible. He stopped his work and turned to her, his expression gentle. "Yes, Rose." She took a deep breath. "Why? Why did they leave us?" Mr. Johnson knelt down, bringing himself to her level. He didn't offer empty platitudes or false assurances. He simply said, "I don't know, Rose. Sometimes, people make mistakes. Sometimes, they can't take care of the ones they should." Rose's eyes filled with tears. "Are we going to have to go back to the woods?" Lily, who had been playing nearby, ran to her sister and wrapped her arms around her. Mr. Johnson put his arm around both of them. "No," he said firmly. "You're safe here. You don't have to worry about the woods anymore." That was the beginning. Slowly, over the next few weeks, the sisters began to open up, sharing their story in fragments, like pieces of a broken vase. They told him about the day they were abandoned, the fear they had felt, and the struggles they had faced in the woods. They spoke of their parents, their voices filled with a mixture of love and confusion. Mr. Johnson listened patiently, offering comfort and reassurance. He knew that healing would take time, but he was prepared to give them all the love and support they needed. As the weeks turned into months, Lily and Rose began to blossom on the ranch. Mr. Johnson, with his gentle patience, started teaching them about the rhythms of farm life. He showed them how to care for the animals, feeding the chickens, milking the cows, and grooming the horses. Lily, with her natural curiosity, took to it immediately, peppering Mr. Johnson with endless questions. Rose, still a bit reserved, watched and learned, her quiet determination evident in every task she undertook. He also taught them about growing vegetables. They helped him plant seeds in the spring, weed the garden in the summer, and harvest the crops in the fall. Mr. Johnson explained the importance of hard work and the satisfaction that came from nurturing something from seed to harvest. He taught them that every living thing, whether plant or animal, deserved respect and care. He emphasized the importance of responsibility and the value of contributing to the well-being of the community. They learned to ride horses, Rose showing a particular talent for it. They explored the ranch, discovering hidden meadows and secret streams. The fear that had haunted them in the whispering woods slowly faded, replaced by a sense of wonder and joy. The ranch became their sanctuary, a place where they could learn, grow, and heal. Mr. Johnson, without ever saying the words, showed them what it meant to be a family. One blustery autumn evening, a storm descended upon the ranch with unexpected ferocity. The wind howled like a banshee, tearing at the trees and rattling the windows. Rain lashed against the house, and the thunder boomed, shaking the very foundations. Mr. Johnson, Lily, and Rose huddled together in the living room, watching the storm rage outside. The power flickered and died, plunging them into darkness, save for the warm glow of the fireplace. Suddenly, they heard a frantic bleating coming from the barn. The sheep were terrified. Mr. Johnson knew he had to do something. "I need to go check on them," he said, grabbing his coat and a lantern. "It's too dangerous, Mr. Johnson," Rose cried, her eyes wide with fear. "I have to, Rose," he replied. "They need me." Lily, remembering their time in the woods, clung to his leg. "Please be careful." Mr. Johnson smiled reassuringly. "I will be. But I need your help. Can you two keep the fire going and make sure Mrs. Peterson is all right?" The sisters nodded solemnly. They knew what to do. They had learned to be resourceful and brave on the ranch. As Mr. Johnson braved the storm to reach the barn, Lily and Rose worked together to keep the fire burning bright and to comfort Mrs. Peterson, who was also frightened by the storm. They realized that they were a team, a family, and that they could rely on each other, no matter what. The storm tested their resilience, but it also strengthened their bond, forging them into an even closer family unit. They were no longer just forgotten sisters, they were a force to be reckoned with. The storm eventually passed, leaving behind a trail of destruction. But as the sun rose, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, a sense of peace settled over the ranch. Mr. Johnson returned, exhausted but relieved, having managed to secure the barn and protect the sheep. Looking at Lily and Rose, who were helping Mrs. Peterson clear debris from the yard, Mr. Johnson felt a surge of love and gratitude. They were no longer just two lost children he had found in the woods, they were his family. He knew, with unwavering certainty, that he wanted them to be a part of his life forever. He spoke to Mrs. Peterson, sharing his thoughts. She smiled knowingly. "I knew it all along, Mr. Johnson," she said. "They're meant to be here. They bring so much joy to this old place." That afternoon, Mr. Johnson gathered Lily and Rose in the living room. He sat them down by the fireplace, the same fireplace that had provided warmth and comfort during the storm. He took a deep breath and looked at them, his eyes filled with love. "Lily, Rose," he began, his voice a little shaky. "I've been thinking a lot about you too. About how much you've become a part of my life, a part of this ranch. And I've realized that I want you to stay. Forever." He paused, searching their faces. "I want to adopt you." I want to be your father. If you'll have me. Lily and Rose stared at him, their eyes wide with disbelief. Then, Lily launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck. Yes, she cried. Yes, please. Rose, tears streaming down her face, nodded vigorously. We would love that, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson hugged them tightly, his heart overflowing with happiness. He was no longer just a kind rancher, he was a father. And Lily and Rose were no longer just forgotten sisters, they were his daughters. They were finally, truly, a family. The adoption process was long and involved, but Mr. Johnson persevered, determined to make Lily and Rose his legal daughters. He navigated the paperwork, attended the court hearings, and answered countless questions, his commitment never wavering. Finally, the day arrived when the adoption was official. Lily and Rose stood beside Mr. Johnson in the courtroom, their hands clasped tightly in his. The judge smiled kindly at them. It is my pleasure to declare that Lily and Rose are now officially the daughters of Mr. Johnson, she announced. A wave of relief and happiness washed over them. They were a family, legally and irrevocably bound together. Mr. Johnson squeezed their hands, his eyes glistening with tears. With the adoption finalized, Lily and Rose finally had the security they had longed for. They had a home, a father, and a future. Mr. Johnson ensured they received the best education, enrolling them in the local school where they thrived, making friends and excelling in their studies. He also made sure they never forgot their past, encouraging them to talk about their experiences and to heal from the trauma they had endured. He taught them that their past did not define them, but that it had made them stronger and more resilient. Life on the ranch continued, filled with love, laughter, and the simple joys of family. They celebrated holidays together, went on picnics in the meadow, and told stories around the fireplace. The Whispering Woods, once a symbol of fear and abandonment, became a distant memory, replaced by the warmth and security of their new life. They were a family, bound by love, loyalty, and the shared experience of overcoming adversity. Years flew by like the wind across the golden fields of the ranch. Lily and Rose blossomed into strong, independent young women, their hearts filled with gratitude for the second chance they had been given. Lily, with her bright and inquisitive mind, excelled in her studies. She went on to college, pursuing her dream of becoming a veterinarian. Her love for animals, nurtured on the ranch, guided her path. She never forgot the lessons Mr. Johnson had taught her about compassion and responsibility. Rose, with her quiet strength and unwavering determination, chose a different path. She stayed on the ranch, working alongside Mr. Johnson, learning the intricacies of managing the land and caring for the livestock. She had a natural talent for horsemanship and became a skilled rider and trainer. Both sisters, though pursuing different dreams, remained deeply connected to each other and to Mr. Johnson. They understood the unbreakable bond they shared, forged in the fires of adversity and strengthened by the unwavering love of their father. They often reflected on their time in the Whispering Woods, remembering the fear and uncertainty they had faced. But they also recognized that those experiences had shaped them into the women they were today, resilient, compassionate, and deeply grateful for the simple blessings of life. They knew that they had been given a second chance, a gift they would never take for granted. And they were determined to use their lives to make a positive difference in the world. Driven by a deep empathy for other vulnerable children, Lily and Rose began volunteering at a local shelter. They spent their weekends playing with the children, reading them stories, and offering them the same comfort and reassurance that Mr. Johnson had once given them. They also shared their story, carefully and sensitively, with the older children, hoping to inspire them with their message of hope and resilience. They told them about their time in the Whispering Woods, the fear and uncertainty they had faced, and the kindness of Mr. Johnson, who had changed their lives forever. They emphasized that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope. That even when they felt lost and alone, there were people who cared and who were willing to help. They encouraged the children to never give up on their dreams and to always believe in the possibility of a brighter future. Their story resonated deeply with the children at the shelter, many of whom had experienced similar hardships. Lily and Rose became role models, showing them that it was possible to overcome adversity and to build a fulfilling life. They also worked to raise awareness about the plight of abandoned and neglected children, speaking at community events and advocating for better resources and support systems. They wanted to ensure that other children had the same opportunity to find a loving home and a secure future. Their experiences had transformed them into powerful advocates for those who needed it most, carrying forward the legacy of kindness and compassion that Mr. Johnson had instilled in them. Over time, the stories surrounding the Whispering Woods began to change. The old tales of haunted depths and malevolent spirits faded, replaced by a new narrative, a story of hope and second chances. People began to see the woods not as a place of fear, but as a symbol of resilience and the transformative power of kindness. They remembered Mr. Johnson, the gentle rancher who had dared to venture into the woods and rescue two forgotten children. They remembered Lily and Rose, the sisters who had overcome adversity and dedicated their lives to helping others. The woods became a place of reflection, a reminder that even in the darkest of circumstances, there was always the possibility of redemption and renewal. Families began to hike its trails, not with fear, but with a sense of awe and respect. Children were no longer warned to stay away, but encouraged to explore its beauty and to learn from its secrets. The story of Lily and Rose and Mr. Johnson became a local legend, passed down through generations, a testament to the enduring power of love, compassion, and the unwavering belief in the goodness of humanity. The Whispering Woods, once a place of fear, was now a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the most forgotten souls could find a place to belong and a reason to believe in a brighter future. It showed that kindness and love can change the world, one small act at a time. The Forgotten Sisters had changed the fate of not only themselves but the woods as well.